Alrighty, so hopefully y'all can hear me okay, but thought I'd give y'all a little bit of an update here on the 327 engine that's in this square body 1981 GMC truck. Um, if y'all watched my walk around video, y'all will know a little bit of the details on this engine, but if you didn't, basically we've got a 1967 327 block here. It's a small journal, 2-bolt main, um, typical block you would find in a Corvette of the time or other GM produced cars that would come from the factory with a 327 motor. So this motor's been obviously rebuilt, hopped up a little bit. It's been bored 60 over, and it's got a comp thumper cam in it. Not the real big thumper, but it has a thumper cam in it. So it's got a little bit of a big cam, a lopey cam, I'll put it that way. Which is fine. I probably wouldn't have done that myself, but it is causing some tuning issues that is common with a big lopey cam. So those are some things I'm starting to address. I've been mulling over this motor for a couple of weeks now with what I now know about it since I've had it and what it's doing. I'm in a detective investigation stage right now, trying to figure out what the previous owner did to it as far as the setup and tuning, and also trying to figure out where I go with it from there. So I wouldn't have probably personally went with the big cam, knowing what I know about the cam now and the tuning issues it kind of creates. The second issue we've got, and it is an issue or not an issue depending on the application of the engine and what you intend on doing with it. We got a 750 CFM Holley carburetor on here, which by the math, and you can Google this, I forget what the formula is, but it's basically like cubic inch by times the number 3456 or something like that. You can get, there's a little bit more in depth on that calculation you can get. There's this 85%, I forget the term for it, but if you're curious, you can Google that stuff, YouTube it, whatever. But by the math, the engine, even at it's bored out, so we're around 336, 337 cubic inches now. Should have an approximately a 600 CFM carb. The calculation may bring it out to like 625. So there's only a handful of carbs at that 625 CFM. So you kind of jump from 600 to 650. So the cam, I can't change the cam unless pull the motor. Mike could do it in here. It'd be a lot of work. Pull the heads, intake, pull the top end of the motor out, pull the radiator out, all that. Mike could do it sitting in the truck. Might be easier to pull the motor out, but the point is it's a lot of work. So I'm gonna try to live with the cam. So before I get off track, on the 750 CFM carb, if this engine was in a race application where it was going to live its life in a high RPM scenario on track, whatever, this setup would probably be okay. This is with a 750 CFM carb and this cam, it's going to make a lot of power on the top end. But the reality is it's sitting in a square body truck, 4-wheel drive. It's not going to be on a racetrack. uh, and I'd rather have some more power down low. And I can get a little bit. The cam is causing most of the issue with power down low, but I can gain a little bit down low by reducing the size of the carburetor. Is basically what I'm getting at. So I can do that, and I can swap out the carb without a lot of trouble here. Hopefully, there may be some other tuning scenario things going on here that I may get into, but the other thing, it's running rich. I've mentioned that in a previous video. And one of the things I can't tell right now is it has an air fuel ratio gauge in here. It's not working. It's stuck on like 14.6, 14.7. So I got around to Googling that and figured out that O2 sensor is shot. So I got another O2 sensor right here. Right here, I found this little sensor. I don't want to drop that. They're sensitive to shock, but I hadn't crawled under the truck. I can see where the sensor is in the exhaust pipe, just right behind where it hooks to the header. So first thing I'm going to be doing today is crawling under there and getting that old one out and trying to get this new one in. Now, this new one isn't the exact replacement for this gauge. Everybody, not everybody, but I found several people that's buying this part number to replace this. The problem with it is the wiring harness on it's a little shorter. So I don't know yet till I get down there and pull that one out if I've got the connector down there where I need it, or if I'm gonna have to find that elsewhere and fish it through and etc. etc. I don't know yet. But I got to get that O2 sensor in there because I need to get a baseline number on just where we're running as far as at idle, how rich it is. Obviously it's rich. I have pulled a plug out of it. It didn't look terribly bad. I started to pick up a new set of plugs for it today. I think I'm just going to pull all these plugs out and clean them, because when I take all these plugs out, I can get a wrench on this crank down here and rotate this engine over. Because the next thing I need to figure out is I put a timing gun on this a week ago, and I was convinced something wasn't right with my timing gun or my setup. Something wasn't right, but it may be right. At idle, vacuum advanced, unhooked and plugged, it was set in the 40s initial timing, 42, 45, somewhere in there. I didn't get the exact number because it didn't seem right. Upon further investigation, it's possible that the thing is set for 40 something initial timing. It's not uncommon with a big Lopi cam for that to be the case. Now, whether that's a good thing or not, I don't know. I've seen where people talk about doing it and it's like it's no big deal, and I've heard where over a prolonged period of time that can be harmful to the engine because, at a lower RPM, you're telling that plug to fire in the stroke further down, so you're putting a lot of pressure on that piston early, per se, than where it normally would be if it was timed at like 15, 18 degrees initial for a Lopi cam. So part of my investigation process is going to be today, get that sensor put in, get it fired back up as it sets, and get a timing light on it, look at that again, see if I can't get an exact number on it. Idle it up some, 2,000, 3,000, and idle it up, but rev it up. See if the mark stays at that or if it moves. Try to get an idea of what that's doing. If it don't move and it stays relatively the same, then that's telling me they have probably took the weights out of the mechanical weights out of the distributor and locked out the distributor, which means it's at 40 something degrees timing all the time. If it does move and I get into the distributor and everything's there, then I've got to kind of figure out if there's been any stop bushings on the weights, that kind of stuff. I don't know. Just looking at how the distributor's turned, it does look like it's advanced a lot. So I've got to figure all that out. And the reason why I need to get the timing where I want it before I start really tuning the carburetor. Now, I'm not going to be tuning that carburetor. I'm going to leave that carburetor alone. I have verified that they haven't drilled holes in the butterflies yet. That's a common thing with a Lopi cam, to kind of correct a rich mixture at idle with a Lopi cam, because the butterflies have to be cracked a little bit to get enough air to get it to run, blah, blah, blah. So what I think's going on with this carb is just the idle's been turned up. So, and when I pull it off, I'm gonna verify it, but when these carburetors have circuits in them, stages, there's your idle circuit, and then you've got kind of a transition circuit with some transition slots, and then you go into pulling from your, Venturis and all that, and then you get into the secondaries and whatnot. So what I think's going on is the idle's been turned up to get it to run. So the butterfly's cracked enough that it's pulling fuel from not only the idle circuit, but the transition slots, and that's causing the rich idle on it. So that carburetor's going to come off. I have right here in the box brand new 600 CFM Holley. I'm going to put the 600 on here. Just mathematically, that seemed right. The vacuum on this motor, I put a vacuum gauge on it last weekend. I've got, with it warmed up and idling and everything, I'm getting about 9 inches of vacuum. It's really low. For those of y'all that don't know, a normal setup engine is probably going to be in the 15 to 20 range, probably closer to 20, if not 20 or over. So what I'm pointing out here is this thing is, and it's common with the Lopi cam to have very low vacuum at around 9 inches. So it's not pulling enough air, it's not atomizing the fuel. Putting a smaller carb on it will help atomize the fuel a little bit better, I believe. We'll just go from there. I'll try to get it running on a smaller CFM carb, which should be more right for it. I had a co-worker this week that knew somebody that had a 60s model Corvette with 327 in it, and it's running it's running a stock but yet high performance cam. I forget an I forget what it was kind of a hopped up 327 for the day, but it's running I think he said a 580 CFM carb, so it's a little bit smaller than the 600. So that tells me putting a 600 on it should be about right. And all the research I've did, people building these, that's 600's about where they go. So I get it on there and get it running. We'll see if it increases the vacuum any. It may not even be noticeable. I'm gonna put an RPM gauge on this thing too, so I can see that. And then I'm gonna set that other carb where the transition slots are not exposed more than they're supposed to be. Now I may have to drill holes in the butterflies. But once I do that, I'll compare the air-fuel ratio then to what I see with this one when I get that back working. I need that working first. And we'll just see if we had any improvement on that. I still think I may be running a little rich with the 600, and I don't know that I'm be able to tune that out with the idle mixture screws, which are setting this little block here behind the front fuel bowl. There's some other little tricks you can do in that metering block to reduce the flow of fuel in the idle circuit. So it may come down to me doing that. And I think I can eventually get it to idle right. The next thing's going to be getting it to run right. So this carb, I noticed here on the accelerator pump, it's already engaged. Like the accelerator pump is already tied against this spring down here, and it's actually pushing it down a little bit already. And that shouldn't be, which tells me the idle screw has been, the idle's been turned up on it, which is cracking those butterflies. So that's all kind of making sense. But we'll see. I get this one off. We'll see how far cracked they are. I can't really tell until I turn it upside down. I'm gonna put a fuel filter temporarily on it. I still kind of want to see what's coming out of at least the one tank it's running off of. I said the distributor, I don't know what I'm gonna get into there. If everything's there, we may can play with the timing a little bit. If it's all locked out, I don't know. I need to get that figured out. I just don't know where we are. But the plugs, I don't know if I mentioned, I'll take the plugs out, get them all out. I can turn the engine because I put the timing light on there. Like I said, it was in the 40s. So another thing that could be going on is where the balancer's marked and the timing marks, it could be off. So I'm going to try to kind of sort of find top dead center. I'm not going to remark it, but at least kind of see that the mark and top dead center are kind of where it should be. And that'll tell me if it is really off or not. And if it's off, then I'll go into seeing about really trying to mark it correctly the best I can. But not there yet. So I got a lot of little things to do here before I can even get going today. I'm going to try to tackle this AFR gauge first. May go ahead and get these plugs out and check that timing mark. See where we are on that. Then we'll probably fire it up, see if we can get an AFR reading. Do another test with the timing light on it. Do some revving, see if it's changing or not. Just try to put the pieces of the puzzle together a little bit more here before I start yanking that carb off and putting the other one on and kind of basically retuning the thing, I guess. But I think I think it can be done. I know it can be improved. I believe it's just going to take some time and tinkering. But before I end this right now, I did get the back bumper straightened. I should have got video of that, but it was bent up and torqued a little bit, so I got a strap around it, kind of pulling down but also torquing it. Put the baby tractor on it, had a box blade on the back, lifted it off the ground. I put jack stands under the back frame, so I was pulling down till the frame hit that and then pulling on the bumper. So I got the big tractor out and made quick work of it. But I got this bumper back as straight as it's going to be. You can't, unless you knew it, you probably wouldn't notice it now. So I got it pretty good. So the back bumper's ready to come off. Start sanding and wire wheeling that down for paint. And I probably have decided to go ahead and pull the bed off the truck. I've got it here and front end loader and everything, and the bumper's off. Probably pull the bed so I can get to the fuel tanks, We know there's a fuel leak going on with the driver's side tank, so probably replace all those rubber lines, maybe some gaskets, any seals there at the top of the tank. I'd like to look in the tanks just to see if they need to be pulled and cleaned or not, or even replaced. Hopefully they're not that bad. And just do all that and then start putting it back together. I think I'm going to clear coat the bed. I kept saying I didn't know what to do with the bed because it's in such good shape. So when I get all that done back together, I'm going to look at doing some kind of clear coat application to the bed just to protect it and keep it from rusting here in the south. You know, that'll be down the road. But anyway, there's your update. I'm going to start working on this thing. I'm going to try to spend today on it. I don't get many days to spend on stuff, but I'm going to try to spend today on it. And see if I can't get somewhere. At least get some more information. Go back to the drawing board and see what we'll do next. But hopefully I'll get to at least get the 600 on here today, carb, and try to get it running on that, and at least try to compare the two AFR numbers between this carb and the 600. And then I can try to start figuring out what I need to do to get the idle mixture right so it ain't running rich at idle. And I'm hoping that carbs tend to be set to run a little rich from the factory, especially aftermarket carbs. I'm kind of hoping with the 600 being jetted down and all that we're going to be really close to where we need to be with it without really having to mess with the jets and all. But that'll be down the road. First things first, get it in there, try to get the idle right. But like I said, I don't want to get into all that tuning until I can figure this ignition timing out and why and what's going on there. So anyway, there's your update. Hopefully the audio was okay on this with the camera set up like it is. But anyway, thanks for watching. See ya.